Hi everyone, this is Miss Lemelin. I just wanted to make a quick video to show you how you can make your PowerPoint for the Wax Museum project. So for my project, my example role model is going to be Bill Nye. So I'm going to start off with my title slide. And if you will recall, previously we learned about text features. Therefore, the title for my presentation will be the role model that I've chosen. Directly below that, I will put my name just to ensure that my viewers know whose presentation this is. Now, if you'll see on the right-hand side, PowerPoint will often show different recommendations for how your slide can look. So it's come up with a few options for me. I will look through the few that are there, and if I find one that I like, I will click on it. So far this one looks okay to me, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to my next slide. In order to do that, you'll look at the screen where it says New Slide, and you can either just click New Slide, the words itself, or you can click the arrow to the right of that to look at a few different options. Now I know that my next slide is going to answer a few of the questions from the Wax Museum notes, so I'm going to choose Content with Captions so that I have a few options of where to put my text, and I can even put images if that's what I desire. Now on this screen you will see the Wax Museum Research Notes page, the first one, and I'm noticing some questions that are going to need to be answered on my project. I know that I've already answered what the full name of my person is, so I'm going to go ahead and add the next question here to the slide that I was just presenting. As you can see, I've copied and pasted the question inside my slide. What I'm going to do now is find the answer using the internet, and I'm going to make sure that I keep note of my source. As you can see on this screen of Google, the answer to my question has popped up at the top. However, the first link noted underneath the answer is Wikipedia, which we all know is not always a reliable source. Therefore, I'm going to scroll farther down until I get the answer. Now, if I look at biography.com, I see that the answer is Bill Nye was born in Washington, D.C. on November 27, 1955. So the first thing I'm going to do is find my quote, my evidence. I will copy and paste that into my presentation. I might even change it so that it's in my own words. And then I'm going to ensure that I return to Google to copy my source and add to the end of my presentation. I'm now back on my slide, and I've added the answer directly below the question. Now, I think it's important to notice that I added bullet points here, another text feature to separate the information in a logical way. And I've also changed the answer here from what was on the web so that it's a complete sentence. His birthday is November 27, 1955. Now, if I'm going back to edit, which all of us should be doing, you'll notice that this first bullet point is not a complete sentence. Therefore, Bill Nye was born is how I'm going to correct that along the way. I'm now returning to Google so that I can find my source and add it to my presentation. I'm going to hover over the link, right-click, and then what I'm going to do is make sure that I copy the link. Now, when you get older, this will be slightly different. You probably will not just be copying the link. However, that is how we're going to be doing this for our Wax Museum project. Now, just like before, I'm going to add a new slide, and I'm going to add that now rather than later so that I'm working a little bit more efficiently. I'm going to title this page Sources, and the very first thing I'm going to do is put that link in that I just copied by pasting it here. Now, you'll notice that it's a little bit big, so what I'm going to do is highlight it and then change the size of the text so that it's a little bit easier for future me if I do add other sources, which I will be doing so. the next thing I'm going to do is go back to the slide I had been at before, and I'm noticing that this is looking a bit boring, so what I'm going to do is add an image. Now you can choose pictures, you can find a picture on Google. What I've decided to do is copy and paste an image from Google. Now, I already know I'm going to be adding other pictures of Bill Nye later in my presentation, so rather than adding a picture of him in his childhood or a current picture of him, I've decided to add another text feature, a map, to show where Bill Nye was born. Now, this was listed as Washington, D.C., and again on the right-hand side, you'll see that the designer will give me some examples of other ideas for this slide. Now, if designer does not automatically pop up for you, another way to find that is to click design and then click on the word designer. However, mine's already open, so I'm going to look through and decide on one that I think looks best. I personally think that this one looks nice. It kind of emphasizes the map and it makes my words a little bit better or bigger for the viewer. The next step would again be adding another slide. So I'm going to go to the top, look at where it says new slide, and I know that this next one's going to have some more information about their early childhood. So this time I'm going to choose title and content. Now, without showing you, I already copied and pasted that question. It's now going to become the subtitle of this slide. And then I'm going to fill in the information that I added into my research notes. Now it's important to note that yes, some of it should be evidence from the sources that you found, but you should also be putting a lot of this information into your own words because this is your research project and you are the one compiling information about your role model. Now I've compiled some information from another source that I found about Bill Nye's childhood. You can take a look at any point in time. However, when I went to go edit my slide, I noticed that a lot of the images suggested by PowerPoint do not necessarily match the theme of my PowerPoint. For example, I know that based on this slide, Bill Nye did not have to do with the materials in the picture. Similarly, if I chose the next one, Bill Nye does not have to do with a group of people who are skydiving. And even when I scroll down, I'm noticing that a lot of the design choices do not really have to do with him. And even when I choose something like this, the font becomes very small, small enough that it's going to be very difficult for my viewer to read when I actually do my Wax Museum presentation. So another option pops up on the bottom right screen where you can look up some items that were mentioned on the slide. Now, I'm going to search Bill Nye. When I click that, I'm noticing some more current pictures. So perhaps at the top I will type Bill Nye child and see if there's any younger pictures. Oh, and that very first one, he seems a little bit younger than in other pictures that I had been seeing. Now I'm going to choose a slide where I can still read the words, but I also have some information here. So now I've got a photograph, I've got my information in an easy to read way. The only thing left to do is add my source to the source page. So the only thing that you need to do in order to add your next source is to go back to the sources page, click at the end of the link, click enter, and then finally paste your new link, which will come in the same size, same font as the previous one. I've returned to the slide I just completed. I'm going to add another slide so that I can get some more information in here. Again, I'm going to choose title and content, and I'm going to paste the same question that I had before for my Wax Museum project. I know that the next one is, what are the important events and accomplishments of their adult years? Now, the website I just found already has some information about his accomplishments and important events. Therefore, for this question at least, I'm not going to have to add another source because I've already got a source for the answer here. So on this slide again, I've added bullet points rather than a really big paragraph just because I think it's going to be easier to present when I'm actually doing the Wax Museum. I think it's also important to note that as of right now, I have not added a picture to the slide, which is fine. You do not have to add one to every single slide. But it is also important to note that I have not yet finished adding important information to my visual display, so I'm not going to worry yet about transitions or animations. That's something I'll do at the very, very end when I have compiled all the information I need. Now, this next slide I added is not a requirement. However, I wanted to show you how you could go above and beyond if you are also choosing to work on this at home in conjunction with the time that I give you in class. So one thing that I recall being very memorable about Bill Nye is the introduction song to his videos. So what I did was I found a video with the introduction. What I'm going to do is click first Insert, then go to Video, and click Online Video. And remember, we're not looking at videos in class. This is only something that you're doing at home because you need to be able to make sure that you've got your parents' permission, and you need to make sure that whatever you're adding to your PowerPoint is appropriate both to the topic and to the presentation itself. So I've already checked out the video. I've watched it to ensure that it is what it says it is. And as you can see, once I paste the link, the introductory song for his show pops up. So I'm going to click Insert, and as you can see here, I've now got a video added to my PowerPoint. So I can make this bigger, I can keep it small, but essentially what I'm going to do is just make sure that it's big enough the viewer will be able to see it when I am completing my presentation. And when I add that video, I am also going to make sure that it's going to play. So I need to make sure that when I look at the video itself, it will do that. As of right now, it seems like it's going to when I play, but I'm going to go ahead and double check that later when I finished everything else. So we're going to move to the next slide. So again, for this slide, I've copied and pasted the questions from the research notes. Remember that when you're doing that, you have to put full answers. So I know that based on the source I already found earlier, it's the same one that told me about his childhood and about important events and accomplishments in his life. I know that he is still alive and he's currently doing a podcast. Now, based on the way I've designed this slide, I do not have a place to put my answer. So what I'm going to do is, again, click Insert. I'm going to scroll to the right and click Text Box. So when I hover over my PowerPoint, when I drag and drop, I've now added a text box where I can put my answer, which will be Bill Nye is alive and doing well. He is currently working on a podcast. Now, I could add some more information there, but for the purposes of this presentation, I'm going to move on to what piece of advice do you think your role model would give. Now, this is what you think. It's not necessarily what they've already said, so you can turn this into your own words. I know that Bill Nye is a big advocate for working on the climate change and environmental awareness, so I would probably relate my piece of advice to that. Therefore, I would say my advice would be along the lines of to educate yourself and others on the very real and observable effects of climate change in our world. And this time when I add a picture, I will try to make sure that it relates to the climate or to the world. Now, as you can see, I've separated this slide into two sections, and that's because it does not have as much information as this slide, for example, or this slide.